The Guardians of the Galaxy have officially made a name for themselves in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and because it's a Marvel franchise, we fully expect to get lots of mid- and post-credits goodies. Now, we've gotten some good ones already, but we think it's time to kick it up a notch. Haven't subscribed yet? No problem. It's as easy as clicking a button. Just hit subscribe and bam! You get VIP access to all the great content that CBR has to offer. All set? Let's begin!
We'll follow your lead, Starlord.
The original Guardians of the Galaxy. What better way to end a Guardians of the Galaxy movie than with the original Guardians of the Galaxy? The original team is very different from the team that we meet in the first movie. In fact, none of the members are actually part of the original team from the comic books. The Guardians of the Galaxy got their start in 1969, and its members consisted of Major Vance Astro, who's an astronaut from Earth, Martin X Tanaga, who is a being from the planet Pluto, Captain Charlie 27, who's a soldier from Jupiter, and the one member you may know, Yondu Udanta, the only one who's from outside of our galaxy. How cool would it be to see some sort of universe crossover and have the original members accidentally meet the current members? The original team could get sucked into a wormhole of some kind, or use their own Infinity Stones to travel to the parallel universe where the MCU Guardians exist. What would they even say to each other? Would they even like each other? We have a sneaking suspicion that the two Yondus wouldn't get along. The group members have changed a lot over the years.
Ain't no thing like me except me.
Which opens the door to even more crossovers if the creators choose to do so. But with all the superheroes who need screen time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we'd be surprised to see very many more new heroes introduced anytime soon.
The Avengers. That's what we call ourselves. Sort of like a team. Earth's mightiest heroes type thing.
The Avengers. The Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers are two of Marvel's greatest teams of heroes. They're bound to meet up sooner or later, but we'd like it to be sooner. What better way to introduce these two teams together than by teasing the rendezvous in a post-credits scene? There are a few different ways that they could pull this one off. For just a quick but effective tease, they could show Peter's ship, the Milano, landing on the S.H.I.E.L.D. airship. It doesn't give us much, but it does signify something big is brewing. Another fun way to join the two teams would be to just have them all sitting in a room together, maybe in the Avengers Tower. They could all be sitting across from each other in an awkward silence, twiddling their thumbs and trying to figure out what to say. Or better yet, the Avengers could all be staring at Groot while the Guardians of the Galaxy are all staring at the Hulk. Now, if we really had it our way, we would get a much longer scene and watch them all interact for the first time.
Yeah, at least we don't have a cutesy animal mascot and a talking pencil.
Yeah. Call me mascot again.
Starlord would talk to Captain America about leading a group, Rocket would talk to Tony Stark about various inventions, and Groot would talk to the Hulk about, well, being Groot.
Well, I come from a planet of outlaws. Billy the Kid, Bonnie and Clyde, John Stamos.
Welcome to Earth. With the battle for the Infinity Stones coming, the Guardians will eventually have to make their way to Earth. But after saving the Nova Corps from Ronan the Accuser, the Guardians of the Galaxy found themselves with some time on their hands. Maybe with all that extra time, Peter could have given the team a tour of his home planet. Watching the five of them walk around town while Peter excitedly points out things from his childhood would be a blast. It'd be hysterical to see the team coming out of a movie theater and Peter apologizing for making them sit through the new Ninja Turtles and Transformers movies, saying that they were much better when he was a kid. He could even show them things that he's made references to in the past, like a Jackson Pollock painting, or make them sit down and watch Footloose.
We're just like Kevin Bacon.
He could even introduce them to the woman who his ship is named after, Alyssa Milano. Not only that, but we could see normal people react to seeing the alien team for the first time. We could also see the team reacting to things on Earth, like Rocket meeting other raccoons for the first time, and Groot meeting other trees. The Soul Stone. Before creation itself, there were 6 singularities. Then, the universe exploded into existence, and the remnants of these systems were forged into concentrated ingots, Infinity Stones. At least, that's what the Collector tells us in the Guardians of the Galaxy. So far, we've seen the Space Stone in the form of the Tesseract, the Reality Stone, also known as the Aether, the Power Stone, which is encased in the Orb, the Mind Stone, which is currently lodged in Vision's head, and the Time Stone, which is inside the Eye of Agamotto. That means we still have one more to find, the Soul Stone. If the stone isn't shown during Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, then it at least needs to be shown after the credits, so we know when to expect it. Infinity War Part 1 is just around the corner, and we can't wait to find out where this last stone is. After all, by this point, we all know what they are, and that the Soul Stone is bound to pop up in a movie in 2017. Why not in a post-credits scene? We were introduced to the Power Stone via Guardians of the Galaxy, so it would be awesome to see the final stone appear after the credits in Volume 2. In fact, they could have given us a hint about it after the credits in the first movie. Maybe instead of Howard the Duck, they could have shown someone talking to Thanos about losing the Power Stone, and then he could say something about having his sights set on another.
Your mother was of Earth. Your father, well, He's something very ancient we've never seen here before.
Star-Lord's father. At the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, we witness the tragic loss of Peter's mother. His father's whereabouts are unknown, but through his mother's dialogue, we gather that he's somewhere in outer space.
And he was an angel. Composed out of pure light.
Where?
Near the end of the movie, we learn that Peter is only half Terran, meaning his father is from a different planet. We will undoubtedly see his father in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but it would have been cool to get some sort of scene at the end of the first one that gave us a clue about where he is, who he is, and what he's doing. We'd be happy with even a short glimpse of him. Someone who works for him could come in and bring him word that his son saved the Nova Corps. Then we get the grand reveal when Kurt Russell turns around in his chair and smiles, kinda like the first time we saw Thanos. Now, if we wanted to go on an even grander scale, they could show Ego in all of his glory as a massive planet with a face. That would really confuse any audience members who didn't know his backstory. Imagine sitting in the theater after watching a team of lovable misfits defend the galaxy. Then suddenly on the screen, there's a humongous planet-sized face staring you down. If that doesn't get audiences freaked out and curious about what's going on, nothing will.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
The Infinity Gauntlet. The first time we saw the Infinity Gauntlet, it was on display in Odin's vault in the first Thor movie. Once Loki takes control of the Destroyer, it starts to wreak havoc within the vault, killing all of the Asgardians in its path. It's during this scene that we get a quick look at the gauntlet in the background. We don't see it again until after the credits of the Avengers Age of Ultron, but we get a closer look at it when Thanos himself puts it on. Here's the kicker. It's not the same one. The Marvel Studios president revealed that there are two Infinity Gauntlets in the MCU. The one we see in Odin's vault has some fake stones in it, and it's a right-handed gauntlet. The one Thanos puts on is a left-handed gauntlet and stoneless. With Thanos taking things into his own hands, it'd be pretty epic to see him tear right through the defenses at the Nova Corps, snag the Power Stone, and place it in his gauntlet. Then, of course, as he does so, he could take a jab at our ragtag group of heroes and say something about how they can't even guard one thing, let alone the galaxy.
You're guardians of the galaxy.
A post-credit scene like that would give us a taste of his true power, and we get to see him in action before Avengers Infinity War. Awesome Mix Volume 2. We did get to see this at the very end of the movie. Peter finally opens the gift from his mother and finds a second mixtape called Awesome Mix Volume 2. He puts it in and we get to hear Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Marvin Gaye, and then right after that, we hear I Want You Back by the Jackson 5. Both songs are fantastic anthems of their times, and it left us all wondering what else could possibly be on the mixtape that could hold a candle to those songs. Unfortunately, the scene after the credits didn't feature any more music, so we were left wondering for another couple of years. What would have been really awesome though is if we got to hear a little bit more of that awesome mix after the credits. For instance, they could have just featured a scene within the ship and have the music playing in the background. It wouldn't even need to be a big part of the scene, but at least we'd still get another snippet of what was to come. They could have had fun with it though, and revealed a new song by showing Peter teaching the crew how to dance to one of the songs. Groot was already dancing in his little pot, so it would have been perfect to see him wiggling away while the others learned the steps to Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.
When I picked you up as a kid, these boys wanted to eat you. They ain't never tasted Terran before.
Nebula and Yondu. Nebula and Yondu didn't part ways from the Guardians of the Galaxy on the best terms. Nebula left after being defeated by her sister and chopping off her own head, and Yondu left after stealing what he thought was the Power Stone, but it turned out that Peter Quill was just trolling him. We imagined that they would be quite upset with the team after their run-ins, and it would have been cool to see what they were feeling after all the dust had cleared. We might see Nebula contacting her resources to try and plan an attack against the Guardians, and maybe Yondu would do the same with his band of Ravagers. Or what would make things even more interesting is if Nebula and Yondu actually met up and planned their revenge together.
You have always been weak. You stupid traitor.
Nobody talks to my friends like that.
If they actually did join forces to take on Quill and the gang, the Guardians would be in for a world of hurt. Lucky for them, that's not how it plays out. But it definitely would have been interesting to see what those two were up to after the big battle. Maybe instead of plotting their revenge, they'd be thinking about how to join the team. After witnessing the true scope of their abilities by taking down Ronan's forces and collectively wielding the power gem, maybe Nebula and Yondu would be impressed and rethink their alliances. They could meet up and talk about getting revenge, but then after realizing they can't win, quickly switch their views and talk about joining them instead. Language lesson. Everyone knows Groot's vocabulary, with the exception of one instance, is limited to 3 words. I, am, and Groot.
Well, he don't know talking good like me and you. So his vocabularistics is limited to I and am and Groot. Exclusively in that order.
Even though Rocket is able to understand him, things might get a bit hairy if Groot needs to relay a message to the team and Rocket isn't around. So, for another pointless but funny after the credits scene, we can see the team trying to teach Groot more words. They would try and teach him helpful things like help and look out or dance off. Of course, this would never actually work out for them, and the scene would end with the Guardians defeated and Groot proclaiming that he is indeed Groot. Groot doesn't need to say anything more than that. He's awesome and adorable at the same time, no matter his size. It would be pretty trippy though to hear him start putting together complete thoughts and sentences beyond saying his name. Heck, if they wanted to, during that post-credit scene, they could show the Guardians give up and then have Groot turn around and start talking to a bug about how they can't ever know that he can actually speak perfectly. That way, the audience knows he can speak, and we get that closure, while the rest of the team goes on believing he's limited to just 3 or 4 words. Spider-Man. How great would it be to see the Guardians of the Galaxy join forces once again with Spider-Man? The first time we saw this mashup was in 1979, when the future Guardians of the Galaxy went back in time and ran into Spider-Man. But the heroes that made up the team were far different than what we see in the movies today. Back then, they were made up of Starhawk, Martin X, and Nikki. No loudmouthed raccoon, and no lovable semi-talking tree. We need another crossover with the current Guardians, and we need to see it play out on the big screen. Their personalities match Spider-Man so well, it'd be a match made in heaven. Even if we can't get a full movie with the crossover, it would at least be awesome to see how they all interact in a post-credits scene.
I am Groot.
Yeah, I know. You're Groot.
I am Groot.
Dude, I heard you.
Spider-Man could be bummed after being turned down by the Avengers and try to join with the Guardians of the Galaxy. It could be something small like a video chat between the team and Spidey where they just laugh at him for asking to join. But if we could really have our way, it would be hilarious to see Rocket Raccoon and Spider-Man perform a series of ridiculous trials, all the while Peter Quill complains about having another Peter on the team. Then, of course, with all the puns and quips coming from Spider-Man, Drax would have no clue what he was talking about. Now that's a post-credits scene.
We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is supposed to have 5 credit scenes, which hopefully sets a trend for other Marvel movies to come. More content from the MCU is always welcome. What are some post-credit scenes that you would like to see? Which ones are your favorites? Use that handy comment section to let us know. Also, don't forget to like this video if you like this video, and subscribe to CBR to find even more content on comic books, movies, TV shows, video games, and more.